This piece is called Black Socrates Speaks. Sisters, raise your sons too. My mother had me at 14 years old at a time when teenage pregnancy wasn't all that common, especially in the southern region known as the Bible Belt. As a matter of fact, our church had my mother, while pregnant at 13 years old, go before the congregation to confess and ask the church for forgiveness. Lord help them. My paternal grandmother suggested that my father, 17 years old at the time, and 17 years old at the time, and mother marry as a consequence. However, my parents were part of the second generation of students experiencing integration with the so-called opportunity to further their education. So my maternal grandmother stepped in and said no. Plus, she knew they were not ready for marriage. This was 1973 and the beginning of what I call the fatherless generation, meaning the point in which out of the wedlock births surpassed marriage births with the father at home to help raise the children. Consequently, when asking the question, what does it take to make a black man commit today, we must recognize that most single black men today grew up without an example in the household to guide them. With that in mind, let's examine the results of the fatherless generation and its effects on the available black men committing to and taking on the responsibility of exclusive relationships or marriage with available black women. Single mothers will typically do a great job preparing their daughters to be responsible adults. This, in part, is because they are women themselves, and in part because they are unfortunately aware of the possibility that their daughters may also raise children on their own one day. One might think these single mothers would also raise their young sons to be more responsible than their fathers, who may or may not be around. Although all too often, a young single mother treats her son like the man of the house prematurely by cooking and cleaning for him in a way she never would for her daughter. All the while, our hypersexual society continues to encourage young boys to sow their proverbial wild oats. If that results in another teenage pregnancy, the single mother, prematurely a grandmother, steps up to take on her son's responsibility, allowing him to live his own life. Now we have a so-called man who expects women to cook and clean for him just as his mother did without having any real responsibilities. This is not an indictment on single mothers, but rather an honest assessment of how this vicious cycle continues to churn out boys/men who never understand the responsibility of a commitment to a child and a woman. Now, my wonderful mother didn't raise me to be the man of the house and made sure I had plenty of chores, including getting my own meals. She did the best she could with the sowing the wild oats parts, but at least drove it in my head not to bring any babies home while under her roof. She disapproved of me having sex as a teenager, but educated me and provided me with condoms as soon as she found out I was having sex. As her only child, my mother was determined that I not become a teenage father. She made it abundantly clear that if I had any children before marriage, the responsibility would be mine and mine only. Thanks to my mother, this was written back in 2012, I'm a 48-year-old single black man who has never been married and has no children. Some people ask, what am I waiting for? So I tell them it's not easy navigating this field of new age, independent women who do not need a man. Looks like the daughters could use a daddy too. Just my 3 cents. All I ask is that you think. Has 2 follow-up questions. I'll read them and get out of here. Discussion. First question number 1. Do some mothers love their sons so much that they fail to teach them how to treat women, or is the lack of a male present the most prominent reason sons listen to their peers over their mothers? Question number 1 to discuss. Question number 2. When mothers and fathers push their daughters to be independent, is this helpful or detrimental to their future relationships? All I ask is that you think. Thank y'all.